She said she was going to yoga, and an hour later, I saw her walk into a hotel with another man. I didn't know who he was yet, but from that moment on, I was no longer the man I had been. She started waking up earlier. At first, I didn't think much of it. We'd been together over 10 years. Small changes just feel like phases. She was making her own breakfast. Different food. Almond milk and oatmeal, stuff she used to hate. She smiled more, moved lighter, said she was going back to yoga, wanted to reconnect with herself. I thought, great. Good for her. She deserved that. The kids had grown up a bit, my work was steady, and it felt like things were finally slowing down. I even helped her pick out a new yoga mat on Amazon. The studio was across town. Amazing instructor, she said. Young, but really deep. She started going twice a week, every Tuesday and Thursday, in the morning. She'd come back late, sometimes with a fresh smoothie or a protein bar. She looked relaxed, recharged, not exhausted like someone who just did hot yoga for 90 minutes. No, she looked satisfied, calm, and somehow far away. But I trusted her. That was my mistake. It started with little things. Always little things. One morning I was reaching for my phone charger and saw her Apple Watch on the dresser. The screen lit up. A few messages came through from an unsaved number. First, you drive me insane. Then, still thinking about the smell of your hair today. Then, Thursday. Same time. My chest went tight. Not anger. Not even shock. Just silence. That kind of deep silence you feel in your bones. I didn't open anything else. Didn't dig through her apps or go searching through her photos. I just set the watch down. Quietly. She walked in from the shower, wrapped in a towel, fresh-faced, and smiling. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I said. Just remembered something I forgot to do. She kissed me on the cheek, and I smiled. But it wasn't a real smile. That night, I couldn't sleep. She lay beside me in a deep, peaceful sleep, and I just stared at the ceiling, my thoughts racing through the past few weeks. The way she'd been acting. Lighter. Freer. Like someone who had a secret they didn't need to confess. It wasn't anger I felt. Not yet. It was distance. And I realized she wasn't pushing me away. I had already been pushed. I just hadn't noticed until now. The next morning, I told her I'd be working from home. Stomach's a little off, I said. She didn't question it. That's good, she replied. You should rest. I'll just head to yoga, then maybe stop by the store. She kissed me goodbye. And at 9:40 a.m., she pulled out of the driveway. I waited 10 minutes. Then I followed her. It was raining. One of those slow, gray, heavy mornings. Everything felt too quiet. She didn't drive to the yoga studio. She drove out past the industrial part of town, to a quiet, barely marked hotel. Holiday Inn Express. No real signage. Back parking lot. No obvious cameras. She parked by a side entrance and waited. I stayed a block away, watching. My heart was pounding so loud I could feel it in my throat. 5 minutes later, another car pulled in. A black SUV. Tinted windows. A man stepped out. Hood up. Confident. Calm. No hesitation. He walked straight to her car. She got out. And smiled. It wasn't nervous. It wasn't hesitant. It was like watching someone step back into a place that already belonged to them. He leaned in and kissed her. Not quickly. Not secretly. But like this was routine. They walked into the hotel together. No rush. No fear. And I just sat there. Alone in my car. Staring. My hands on the wheel. My whole body stiff. I didn't follow. I didn't scream. I didn't call her. I just drove home. She came back a couple hours later. I was at the kitchen table, working on my laptop. She walked in like nothing happened. Hugged me from behind. Kissed the back of my neck. Good day, she asked. Yeah, I said. Quiet. She said yoga had been intense. Something about new poses and how she needed to stretch more at home. I said she should show me sometime. She laughed. I laughed too. And something inside me cracked clean in two. The next day, I ran his number through a data lookup service. Got a name. Andrew Harper. 39. Business consultant. Divorced. Lived across the city. The name didn't hit me at first. But that night, I opened an old box in the closet. The one with her photo albums and letters she hadn't touched in years. And there he was. A photo. Her, younger, arms around him, both standing on a beach. Smiling. Free. Happy in a way I hadn't seen on her face in years. I remembered once asking about that picture. Who's he? I said. Oh, just an old boyfriend. Nothing serious, she replied. Don't worry about it. I hadn't. Until now. And now I couldn't stop. I couldn't get that image out of my head. Her. Smiling at him. Like the world made sense in that moment. It didn't look like cheating. It looked like coming home. That messed with me more than anything. I kept asking myself, was this something she just fell into, or something she never left? And the worst part, I didn't know which answer I feared more. I didn't confront her. Not yet. It was too soon, and I wasn't ready to hear the lies she'd say to cover it. I didn't want to give her the chance to flip it around and make me feel crazy. I'd seen it happen before to friends, to coworkers. You're overreacting. You're paranoid. You never trusted me anyway. No. I was going to build a wall of facts so solid, she wouldn't be able to say a word when the time came. So I went back to that old box in our closet. We all have one. The box of before. Old photos. Letters. Stuff you meant to throw away, but couldn't. Hers was buried behind a stack of winter sweaters. I pulled it out like I was defusing a bomb. Inside, a Polaroid of her and Andrew at a party. A bundle of folded notes in his handwriting. A printed-out email that started with, I shouldn't be writing this, but I miss you. Some were dated before she met me. A few overlapped. And then I found it, a postcard. Mailed from Boston. No return address. Just a short message in that same handwriting. I'll always be a phone call away. I mean it. Hey. That card was postmarked 6 months after we got married. She had kept it. All these years. While I was busy building our life, she was holding on to his words like a lifeline. I didn't know how to process that. I wanted to believe she married me because she loved me. Not because he left. Or because he wasn't ready. Or because I was stable and she was tired. But right then, in that moment, it felt like I was the guy she settled for, not the guy she chose. I sat there on the closet floor with that box in front of me and felt something in my chest shift. Not break. Just shift. Like when a joint pops out of place and it doesn't hurt, but you know it's never going to sit quite right again. She called out from downstairs, asking if I wanted tea. I told her I was fine. But I wasn't. That night, I laid in bed beside her and stared at the ceiling again. It was becoming a habit. I listened to her breathing, steady and slow, and wondered if she ever laid awake beside me, thinking of him. I started asking myself the kinds of questions that only hurt. Was she thinking of him on our honeymoon? When she was pregnant with our son? Was he on her mind the day we signed for this house? Has he always been there? I couldn't shake it. I started noticing everything. The way she hummed while folding laundry. The new playlist she listened to on her drive. The little spark in her that wasn't for me anymore. It wasn't hate I felt. It wasn't even jealousy. It was displacement. Like I was living in someone else's story, the second choice, the safety net, the guy who showed up after the one she actually wanted disappeared. And now he was back. And this time, he wasn't disappearing. On Thursday, I told her I had a full day at the office and wouldn't be home until late. She smiled and said, no problem. I'll probably head to yoga again. That word, yoga, it hit me like glass in my mouth now. I waited in my car, parked down the street, watching her leave. Same routine. Same tight-fitting clothes. Same calm in her walk. I followed her again. She drove to the same hotel. Parked in the same spot. He arrived a few minutes later. Same SUV. Same confidence. This time, they didn't pause. They walked inside like they owned the place. But I didn't watch long. I already knew what was happening behind those walls. Instead, I drove away and pulled over 2 blocks down. Sat there. Just sat. Letting the quiet surround me. And then I made a decision. If I was going to do this, really do this, I couldn't just be the guy who waited in the car. I needed to know everything. What she said. How she acted. What lies she told him. If she loved him. If she ever loved me. I wasn't going to confront her with rage. I wasn't going to scream. I was going to listen. To everything. And when I had it all, the truth, the timeline, the words she could never take back, then I'd decide who I really was in her story. Because maybe I was never her husband. Maybe I was just the space between him leaving and coming back. By the 3rd week, I had a routine. She had hers Tuesday and Thursday yoga sessions. Same window of time. Same pattern. She left smiling, came back glowing. Always full of little stories about traffic or a new post she tried. Always believable. Too believable. Mine was simpler. I watched. I listened. I learned. I didn't confront her. Not because I was afraid, but because I was addicted now, addicted to knowing more than she thought I knew. It gave me leverage. Not over her, over myself. Because I needed something to hold on to while the rest of my life slid sideways. It's hard to explain what it's like, living with someone who's betraying you, while pretending everything's fine. You start to notice the way time bends. 5 minutes at the dinner table feels like an hour. A casual kiss on the cheek feels like someone pressing a knife to your ribs. Even silence becomes sharp. She'd sit on the couch beside me, feet curled under her, watching Netflix, sending texts when she thought I wasn't looking. I didn't need to check her phone. I could read it in her fingers, the rhythm of secrecy. One night she fell asleep with her phone on the armrest. I picked it up, not to go through it. I didn't need to, just to feel the weight of it in my hand. And I thought, this thing knows more about my marriage than I do. That same week, I went back to Andrew Harper's name. I found his company profile, his LinkedIn, mutual connections. I created a fake business email using a name she wouldn't recognize. I reached out, posing as a small business owner looking for consulting advice. It didn't take long. He replied, polite and professional. We scheduled a meeting. He didn't know who I was. Of course he didn't. To him, I was nobody. But to me, he was the man sleeping with my wife. The day we met, I dressed clean, neutral, button-down, jeans, nothing memorable. I wanted to be invisible, just another client, another potential check. We met at a coffee shop downtown. He walked in 3 minutes late, confident like always. Tall, strong posture, designer watch, business casual charm. He smiled, stuck out his hand, introduced himself. Andrew Harper, he said. I shook it, and gave a name that wasn't mine. We sat. He talked. He was good, I'll give him that. He spoke in bullet points, used phrases like strategic trajectory and next phase scalability. The kind of guy who gets hired by people who want to feel smarter just by association. And all I could think was, this is the man she waits for. The man she saves her best self for. While I get the leftovers. We talked for 20 minutes. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? He didn't see the broken version of me, the one who changed diapers at 3 a.m., who cleaned up vomit, who held her when her dad died, who took double shifts so she could stay home with the kids. He didn't know that man. He didn't care about him. But I was looking at him like I'd studied every frame of his existence. The way he held his cup. The way he smirked when he spoke. The way he didn't check his phone once, because he already knew what message he'd find when he got back to it. We wrapped up. He offered a follow-up call. I said I'd think about it. Then I walked out into the street, pulled my jacket tighter, and stood there under a cold gray sky wondering, what role have I been playing in my own life? Because if he's the one she wants, what the hell have I been all these years? That night, I couldn't sit still. I cleaned the garage, reorganized tools I didn't use, deleted old voicemails, stared at pictures of our wedding and felt absolutely nothing. She came into the garage at one point, asked what I was doing. Just clearing space, I said. For what? She asked. I looked up, met her eyes, held them a little too long, then shrugged. Not sure yet. She smiled. Thought I was just being thoughtful. Maybe she even appreciated it. But I wasn't making room in the garage. I was making room in my mind. For new truths. For darker possibilities. For the reality that maybe. I never actually had her. Not fully. A few days later, she laughed at something on her phone. Not a giggle. A full laugh. One of those private, personal laughs. The kind you only let out when something touches a part of you no one else sees. And I asked, what's funny? She looked up, blinked, paused. Oh, just a meme. Nothing. Then flipped the phone over. That was when it hit me. She has a world now that I'm not allowed in. A private country with its own language. Its own history. Its own favorite songs, secret jokes, dirty talk, shared glances, half-finished messages deleted before they could be read. And in that world, I'm a foreigner. And worse, I'm the one she hides from. But I still didn't break. Because I knew something she didn't. I had been close enough to him to shake his hand. I'd heard his voice. Watch his eyes. And next time, I wouldn't be invisible. She had a life before me. Of course she did, we all do. But I never realized just how alive it still was inside her. Still breathing. Still burning. She was 26 when we met. I was 28. I remember the first time I saw her, bookstore, aisle 4, 2 paperbacks in one hand, coffee in the other. She looked smart. Focused. The kind of woman who knew who she was. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't have known, was that when we locked eyes, she was still recovering from something else. Someone else. I was the man who showed up when the storm had passed. But that didn't mean the ground had dried. A week after meeting Andrew Harper in that coffee shop, the man my wife was cheating on me with, I started digging. Not through his life. Through hers. I wanted to know what she had never told me. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because I needed to understand who she had been before me and whether that person had ever truly gone away. So I started where every coward starts, with her social media history. Old posts. Tagged photos. Comments from names I didn't recognize. I created a fake profile so I could scroll back without triggering any red flags. I wasn't proud of it, but I wasn't trying to win awards. I was trying to understand the woman sleeping in my bed. Back then, she smiled more, even when she wasn't trying to. I found pictures from the early 2010s, vacations, concerts, house parties. And in more of them than I expected, there he was. Andrew. Different haircut. Younger face. But unmistakable. Her body language around him was effortless. Familiar. Like she didn't even realize she was leaning toward him in every frame. I clicked through the comments. Miss you too. The dream team. You guys are disgusting. Also perfect. None of these were hidden. None of them deleted. She had just let them fade with time. Like old receipts. But they were still there. Then I found a blog post. Something she'd written in 2014, 2 years before she met me. A kind of open letter. Half poem, half confession. She never said his name. But I knew. You were my home, and you left the lights on when you walked out. I kept waiting for you to come back and lock the door behind you. I read it 3 times. I could feel it, the weight of it, even years later. That wasn't a fling. That wasn't a phase. That was love. The real kind. And if that was her real love, then what was I? That night, I opened our wedding album. Flipped through every page like a detective scanning crime scene photos. She looked beautiful that day. Everyone said so. But now I noticed something different. She smiled in every shot. But her eyes were always somewhere else. I zoomed in on one photo, us under the arch, holding hands, just before the kiss. She was smiling. But I swear, now, I can see it. She looked like a woman who was trying to feel something she knew she should, but couldn't. 2 days later, I went to her gym. I told the front desk I was looking to sign up. My wife's been going here for a while, I said. Blonde, about 5 feet 7 inches. Think she said the instructor's name was Claire. They gave me a puzzled look. Claire, the guy said. We haven't had a Claire here in over a year. I played dumb. Oh really? She said she comes here every Tuesday and Thursday morning. He shook his head. We don't have morning classes those days. Just evening. And your wife isn't on the member list, man. Sorry. I nodded. Said thanks. Walked out. That was the first time I truly felt the floor fall out from under me. Because it confirmed something I hadn't fully let myself believe until now. She wasn't confused. She wasn't lost. She wasn't slipping. She was living a double life. And I was the one she left the lights off for. That night I couldn't eat. She made pasta. Told me about her yoga session. Said she felt tighter in the hips and maybe needed a new mat. I nodded. Smiled. Told her, you've been glowing lately. She laughed. Guess I just feel good. She felt good. While I was slowly watching the edges of my world fray and burn, I stood in the shower until the water ran cold that night. I kept asking myself, what if it was always him? What if she didn't fall in love with me? What if she just got tired of waiting for him to come back? What if I was just the pause? The safe choice. The practical option. The man she chose because the man she wanted disappeared. Until now. The next morning, I started something new. A notebook. Plain black cover. No labels. Inside, I started writing it all down. Dates. Lies. Locations. What she said. What she wore. What I saw. Not to expose her. Not yet. To remind myself that I wasn't crazy. That I saw what I saw. That I was still here. Because I was starting to lose track of who I was. And I needed to hold on to something that still felt like me. Even if that me was a man quietly waiting for the truth to finish falling apart. There's a difference between watching and being inside. For weeks, I've been watching her. Watching him. Watching them circling each other in this secret orbit, just outside the world I thought we built together. But watching wasn't enough anymore. I didn't want distance. I wanted contact. I wanted to step inside their world. Not to stop it. Not to fix it. Just to see it. With my own eyes. To hear what she sounded like when she wasn't speaking to me. To feel the weight of their connection, not in theory, but in proximity. I was done guessing. I still had the fake email I'd used to meet Andrew once before. He thought I was a potential client. A nobody. A lead that went cold. This time, I used a different angle. I reached out under a different name. Posed as someone planning a mid-sized startup project. Needed long-term strategy help. Budget. Flexible. Timeline. Tight. Urgency. High. He bid. Of course he did. Money talks. And I was speaking fluently. We scheduled a lunch meeting at a steakhouse downtown. Private booths. Dim lighting. Easy to disappear in. I wore a dark sweater. Clean jeans. The kind of outfit no one remembers. No cologne. No wedding ring. When he walked in, I saw it again, that same confident, slow-moving posture. The man who'd never had to chase what he wanted. It always came to him. He didn't recognize me. Why would he? To him, I was a stranger. To me, he was the ghost that had been sleeping in my bed. We talked business for a while. I let him lead. He was good at it. Easy smile, sharp pitch. The kind of guy who used first names early and personal stories as metaphors. He liked control. Liked to feel like he was teaching you something. At one point, I interrupted him gently. So you work with a lot of creative professionals? He nodded. Some. But more with businesses that are scaling. Why? I shrugged. Just wondering. My wife's in wellness. Yoga stuff. Not really her thing, but she's been more connected to herself lately. He chuckled. And I watched him carefully. No twitch. No shift. No signal. Just a calm sip of water. I added, I guess that's what marriage does, right? You watch them change and pretend it doesn't make you nervous. Still nothing. He was stoned. Either he didn't know who I was, or he was very good at pretending. But then came the moment. A vibration. He checked his phone, just for a second. Screen briefly lit. A small smile, reflexive. He didn't say anything. Just set the phone back down and returned to the conversation. But I knew that smile. I'd seen her give it to me once. A long time ago. Later that night, at home, I sat across from her at the dinner table. She was eating slowly, scrolling through her phone in her left hand, fork in the right. Good day, I asked. She looked up, half distracted. Mim, busy, but good. I watched her fingers. She wasn't texting. She was rereading something. I know that face. The one you make when you're looking at a message that makes your heart race, but you're trying to hide it. I've made that face before. With her. A lifetime ago. The next day, I got bold. I went to the building where Andrew's firm rented office space. I waited outside. Just sat on a bench across the street. Pretending to eat lunch, watching the front doors. I saw him leave for a meeting. Alone. And 20 minutes later, she arrived. My wife. Hair up. Black coat. That little bounce in her step she used to have when we were dating. Before kids. Before the years piled up. She walked in like she'd done it 100 times. And for all I knew, maybe she had. I sat there, stunned. It wasn't about sex anymore. It wasn't even about love. It was about loyalty. And hers wasn't mine. That night, I waited until she fell asleep. I unlocked her phone with Face ID. I didn't open messages. Didn't scroll through photos. I went to the Notes app. She had a folder called Private. Password protected. I stared at it for 5 minutes. Then I backed out and put the phone down. I didn't want stolen truth. I wanted her truth, said out loud. In her voice. In real time. And I'd get it. Soon. But first, I needed to see what she was willing to say to him when she thought no one else was listening. So I bought a recorder. Not a cheap one. Professional. Clear audio. Small enough to hide. I tucked it into her gym bag the next Tuesday morning. She left at 9:40. I didn't follow this time. I waited. And when she came back, I waited an hour more before checking. She showered. Made lunch. Texted. Called her sister. Laughed at something on Instagram. Same day, different mask. When she left the house again, I grabbed the recorder. Tucked in the back pocket of her bag. Still running. I sat on the floor of our laundry room and pressed play. The first 10 minutes were nothing. Car keys. Traffic. Music. Then voices. Muffled at first. Then clearer. His. Hers. They talked like people who didn't need to impress each other. Like everything between them was already understood. She joked about me. About how I wouldn't know a downward dog from a Labrador. He laughed. Said she was brave. She replied, no. I'm selfish. Then, a pause. Then she said, but with you, I don't care. I stopped the recording. Sat there. Still. No rage. No tears. Just stillness. Because what do you do when you hear your wife say she's selfish and mean it like a love song? What do you do when the person you build a life with laughs about betraying it? You don't scream. You don't flip tables. You plan. I don't know when exactly it happened. But at some point, I stopped being a husband. Not legally. Not in the eyes of the neighbors. Not of the people at church or our kids' teachers. But in the quiet, inside my own head, I wasn't her husband anymore. I was her audience. The man watching her life from the wings while she played the lead on stage. Polished. Perfect. Believable. And every time she smiled at me, I smiled back like a stranger. I kept the recorder in a box under my side of the bed. Labeled it something stupid like old chargers, so she'd never touch it. I didn't listen to the whole thing. Just those few lines. Her voice saying, no, I'm selfish. But with you, I don't care. That played on a loop in my head now. Like a song you hate but can't stop humming. I started doing weird things. Repetitive stuff. Rituals, almost. I checked the doors 3 times before going to bed. Cleaned the same drawer in the kitchen every morning. Scrolled through photos of us on vacations and tried to remember what I'd felt in those moments. Not what I thought I'd felt, but what I actually did. And the truth was, it's hard to say. She laughed a lot, held my hand, said all the right things. But now, looking back, I could see it. Tiny moments. Flickers. Times when her body was close, but her mind was somewhere else. Back then I thought she was tired. Now I think she was just elsewhere. With him. One night, I found myself in front of the mirror. Just staring. Not at my face. At my expression. Trying to see if I looked like a man being cheated on. Spoiler. You don't. You look normal. Maybe a little quiet. A little worn. But mostly, you look like everyone else. And that's the scariest part. Because you don't realize how many of us are walking around like that. Carrying betrayal like it's part of the laundry list. Gas. Groceries. Pay the mortgage. Ignore the feeling in your gut. I started writing again. Not like before. Not facts and dates. I'd already filled up half the notebook with those. This was different. More like pieces of myself. Half-finished sentences. Things I'd wanted to say to her but didn't. Memories that felt real and fake at the same time. You kissed me after the funeral. You were shaking. I thought it was grief. Now I think it was guilt. When you touched my face that night in the car, I thought you were falling back in love with me. But you were just thinking of someone else. You used to say my name softly when you woke up. You don't do that anymore. She asked me one morning if I was okay. I'd been quieter than usual. More distant. She leaned against the counter, sipping her tea, and said, "You've been weird lately. Is something going on?" And I looked her right in the eye, smiled, and said, "I think I'm just tired of being the version of me you want me to be." She blinked, laughed nervously. "What does that mean?" I shrugged. "It means I think I've been trying too hard." Then I kissed her on the forehead and walked out the door. The silence between us started to shift. Not colder, not louder, just heavier, like a secret hanging in the room between us. Neither of us acknowledging it, but both of us working around it like furniture that couldn't be moved. She still went to yoga, still came back glowing, still asked how my day was. And I answered like a man playing a role he hadn't auditioned for, but knew every line by heart. I started dreaming about her, but not the usual dreams. Not romantic ones. Not nightmares either. In the dreams, she was always just out of reach. I'd see her walking ahead of me in a hallway I didn't recognize. She wouldn't turn around. She wouldn't speak. And I'd follow. And follow. And I'd always wake up before I caught up. I stopped sleeping next to her some nights. Told her I fell asleep on the couch. Too tired to move. She believed me. Why wouldn't she? I was still doing the dishes. Still picking the kids up from school. Still buying almond milk and charging her AirPods and remembering to wash her favorite hoodie. I was still the husband she built. But inside, I was a man standing in the ruins of something sacred. And the scariest part? I didn't want to rebuild it anymore. I just wanted to watch it collapse on her terms. So she'd know what it felt like. I kept waiting to wake up. Not from a dream. From the version of my life I thought I knew. You tell yourself a story for long enough, and it becomes your truth. Your reality. Not because it's perfect, but because it's what you chose. You built it. Watered it. Slept inside it. You fought for it. But I couldn't fight for something anymore if I wasn't sure it ever existed. So I went backward. I opened old files on my laptop. Backed up photos. Voice memos. Videos I hadn't watched in years. Birthday clips. Christmas mornings. Her laugh in the background. Our kids trying to blow out candles with the wrong end of the cake. I found one video of us on the porch during a summer storm. She had her feet up on my lap. We were drinking wine. Just talking. She was glowing. And I remembered thinking that night, I'm the luckiest man alive. But now, watching it again, knowing what I know, I watched her eyes. The way they drifted. Like she was there, but not all the way. Like a part of her was listening to someone else in a room only she could see. Memory lies. It cleans up the mess. That's the danger of nostalgia. It makes you believe things were better than they were. Safer. Warmer. It edits out the silences and replaces them with smiles. And for a while, I wanted to live in those lies. Because they were better than the truth I was sitting in. When we first met, she told me she wasn't ready for anything serious. She said she was rebuilding. That she'd been in something that broke her for a long time. That she needed air. I said okay. I said I understood. I said I'd take whatever pieces she was offering and hold them carefully. What I didn't understand then was that sometimes people don't want to heal. They want to remember the wound. Not to feel pain, but to keep something alive inside it. We dated slow, casual, late nights, takeout containers, and shared playlists. But every now and then, she'd disappear into herself. Not for long. Just a moment. Just enough to make me pause. She'd look at her phone a second too long. She'd fall silent when a certain song came on. She'd smile at things I hadn't said. It was like dating someone who lived half in the past. And I told myself that was okay. Because we were building something new. Something stronger. And maybe we did. For a while. She moved in with me the winter before our engagement. Brought her dog, her books, a few plants that didn't survive the move. We fell into a rhythm. Two people figuring out how to become a unit. We fought about dumb things, the thermostat, how to load the dishwasher, whether to use a top sheet. But we also made Sunday pancakes. Stayed up watching crime documentaries. Painted the hallway at 2 a.m. because we couldn't sleep. It was good. It was good. And I know now, looking back, that part of it was real. Just not all of it. I asked her once if she'd ever been in love before me. She hesitated. Smiled. Said, sure, but not like this. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Because isn't that what love is? Choosing to believe the version of reality that makes it easiest to stay? I remember the night we conceived our first son. The way she held my hand in the doctor's office during every appointment. The way she cried when she heard his heartbeat. That was real. I know it was. But that's the thing about people. We're never just one story. We're a whole collection of moments, some true, some half-true, some we tell ourselves just to survive. And the life we had? It was real. It just wasn't all mine. I found a voicemail she left me 7 years ago. Just after a work trip. She said, I miss you. I hate hotel beds without you. It's too quiet. I replayed it 4 times. Then I deleted it. Because I didn't want to live in those echoes anymore. I wanted to see clearly. Not through the lens of who we were, but through the truth of who we are now. And that truth is this. She had a past she never let go of. And I'd build a future around someone who never really stepped out of yesterday. So maybe I wasn't the villain. Maybe I wasn't the victim either. Maybe I was just the man who believed too hard in a story that was only half mine to begin with. And now I was rewriting it, not to change the ending, but to finally understand the beginning. It wasn't a scream. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't even a conversation. It was a moment. A look. A pause in her breath. And I knew she knew. There's a difference between suspicion and certainty. For weeks, I lived on the edge of both. I suspected. I confirmed. I saw things she didn't know I'd seen. Heard things she didn't know I'd heard. But she still thought I was blind. And I let her. Because the moment you show your hand, the game changes. But one night, that changed. We were sitting in bed. TV playing low. The kind of evening where conversation drifts in and out like background noise. She was texting. I was pretending to read. Then I asked her, do you ever feel like you're living 2 lives? She didn't answer at first. Then she looked up, not confused, not defensive. Just alert. Like something inside her stiffened. What do you mean? She asked. I shrugged. Just wondering. Like, sometimes I feel like there's the version of me that exists out in the world. And then there's the one in here. I tapped my chest. Like a mask. No. Not fake. Just split. She smiled. But it was tight. Uncertain. Forced. Yeah. I get that. I nodded. Then I turned off the TV. Slowly. Let the silence settle in. And I looked at her. Really looked. You're good at hiding things, I said. Her eyes didn't flinch. But her fingers did. Just a twitch. Almost nothing. What are you talking about? I held her gaze. You know what I mean. A long pause. Then she exhaled. Soft. Measured. I don't want to do this. Do what? This. Whatever this is. This tone. This game. I'm not playing a game. Then what are you doing? And I said the truest thing I had said in months. I'm waiting for you to be honest with me. She didn't admit it that night. She didn't confess. But something changed. Something shifted. The next morning, she moved slower. Said less. Smiled in that distant way people do when they're quietly rewriting the ending of something in their head. And I knew we were in the end game. For the first time in months, she didn't go to yoga. She stayed home. Cleaned the fridge. Folded towels. Asked if I wanted coffee. We talked about nothing. And everything. And when she looked at me, she did it like she was afraid to see what might be staring back. 3 days later, she sat me down. I came home from work. Dinner was on the table. The kids were upstairs. Music was playing low. She said, can we talk? My hands went cold. Of course. She sat across from me. Not beside. Across. Her eyes were puffy. Her voice was steady. I think we both know things haven't been right for a while. I nodded. Said nothing. And I think I haven't been fair to you. Still, I said nothing. I've been confused. Pulled. Caught between memories. Memories. That's what she called it. Not people. Not mistakes. Memories. She took a breath. I never meant to hurt you. And I could tell she believed that. That was the worst part. Because the truth is, most people who destroy you don't do it out of hate. They do it while still thinking they love you. She didn't admit everything. Not the hotel. Not the man. Not the messages. She told me just enough to make it seem like the truth. And I let her. Because I wasn't ready yet. I wasn't done listening. That night, after she went to bed, I sat in the kitchen for hours. Just breathing. Staring at my hands. I thought about the life we had built. About the version of us the world saw. And about the version we were now. Two ghosts sharing a house that used to feel like home. And I asked myself the question that would define everything that came next. Was I going to let her walk away quietly? Or was I going to show her exactly what it felt like? To be exposed. To be known. To be seen. The real her. No more hiding. It didn't come like a flood. It came like a leak. One drop at a time. And it started with a whisper. 3 days after our last conversation, I left early in the morning. Didn't say goodbye. Didn't need to. She watched me go from the kitchen window, thinking I didn't notice. I did. And when I came back, she was sitting on the couch. Same sweater she wore the first time I told her I loved her. Legs folded under her. Phone on the table. No TV. No music. Just waiting. I sat across from her. Didn't speak. She did. It wasn't supposed to happen, she said. That's how it always starts, right? Like she tripped. Like she fell into his arms by accident. I didn't say anything. She continued. It was just messages at first. Years ago. I never thought he'd answer. He. She didn't say his name. Didn't have to. I'd known for weeks. I was feeling lost. Bored. Maybe lonely. I don't know. I missed who I used to be. That line hit me harder than anything. Not because she missed him, but because she missed herself. The version of her that existed before me. Before the kids. Before the mortgage. Before the dinners and school pickups and routine. She wasn't looking to betray me. She was looking to remember who she was. And that's what he gave her. We didn't plan it, she said. Her voice was quiet. Wrecked. He reached out after I messaged him. Said he was shocked. Said he thought about me too. That he always wondered what would have happened if we hadn't fallen apart. I nodded. Just once. She took that as permission to keep going. At first, it was just talking. Then it turned into more. We met for lunch. Then once at a hotel. Just to talk. That lie was so thin I could see right through it. But I let her say it anyway. Then it kept happening. I kept telling myself it would be the last time. I asked, finally, did you love him? She froze. The air between us turned solid. I don't know, she whispered. Another lie. But a softer one. A lie that wanted to be true. I loved who I was with him, she said. But it was a fantasy. I knew it couldn't last. I knew it would end. I looked at her. At this woman who had once promised me forever. And us. She started crying. Not sobbing. Just tears slipping out like she didn't give them permission. I loved you, she said. I still do. But I broke something. And I don't know how to fix it. I stood. She looked up at me, afraid. But I didn't shout. Didn't accuse. Didn't threaten. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out a small flash drive. Set it on the table between us. What's that? She asked. That, I said, is everything you never said out loud. But said anyway. She stared at it. I left the room. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I slept in the guest room. No blanket. Just silence and the sound of something ending in the other room. In the morning, she was gone. No note. No message. Just gone. But the flash drive was still on the table. Untouched. Because the truth is, she didn't need to hear it. She already knew. And now, she knew that I knew. I didn't chase her. I didn't text. I didn't call. I didn't ask where she went, or if she was coming back. Because I already knew. The woman I married had been gone for a long time. That morning, I made coffee. 2 mugs. Out of habit. Then I poured one down the sink. It felt symbolic. Dumb maybe. But everything felt symbolic now. The quiet. The empty space. The smell of her shampoo still lingering in the hallway. I sat down at the kitchen table and opened my notebook. The one I'd filled with every lie. Every change in routine. Every skipped dinner. Every fake yoga session. Every sideways glance. Every night, She came home smelling like someone else. I turned to the last page, wrote one word. Enough. Then I closed it. I didn't want revenge. I wanted clarity. And in her absence, I had more of it than I'd had in years. The house was still. The silence wasn't sharp anymore. It was clean. Final. I told the kids she was staying with her sister for a while. It wasn't a lie. Just not the full truth. They didn't ask questions. Kids know more than we think. But they ask less when they see you smile through it. 3 days later, she texted, "Can we talk?" I stared at it for an hour. Then I replied, "Only if it's real." She came the next evening. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Just her. She looked tired. Hollow. Like a version of herself she hadn't worn in years. We sat outside on the back porch. No dramatics. Just air between us. She said, "You didn't deserve any of it." I didn't respond. She said, "I kept thinking I had time to fix it. That you'd never find out. That maybe I could bury it." I nodded. I thought if I just acted normal long enough, the past would forget me. I looked at her. "The past didn't forget you," I said. "It waited for you to come back." She started to cry again. And for the first time, I didn't feel pity. I didn't feel anger. I just felt distance. She reached for my hand. I let her take it. And then I let it go. We agreed on the easy version of separation. No lawyers. Not yet. Just time. Space. A trial run of what we already knew was permanent. She packed a few things. I didn't watch her go. When the door shut, I exhaled. It wasn't relief. It was release. I started walking in the evenings. Down the street, past houses where people still lived the lie I used to live. I nodded at couples pulling trash bins, waved at dads throwing balls to kids in yards, smiled at dogs barking from behind fences. And I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. Not joy. Not hope. Just the quiet knowing that I had survived something meant to break me. She still texts sometimes. Mostly about the kids. Once, she sent a photo of the sunrise. "Thought of you." I didn't reply. Not out of cruelty. Out of completion. Because there's nothing left to say. I already said it when I left her hand in the air that night. You think the end will be a bang. But sometimes it's just a door clicking shut behind you. Sometimes it's the sound of your own breath in an empty kitchen. Sometimes it's a cup of coffee you pour down the drain. And the word that echoes in your mind. Enough.